Just a few days until the big handbrake gets pulled on Joe Biden at the midterm elections. Latest analysis from 538, where they have a look at all the polls and numbers and stuff. 73 out of 100 times that they run, what's going to happen at the election? Say, Republicans get the majority in the House. The handbrake goes on to old mate sleepy, creepy, swampy, ice creamy Joe Biden. And this has even been confirmed by the New York Times. Because, you see, the absolute desperation was that by this point in time, we'd only be talking about Trump and January 6. But the reality is that the bad economy is all people care about. In fact, when asked, is the country right track, wrong track, 64% of people tell the New York Times that the country is headed in the wrong direction. And while we're supposed to be talking about January 6, everyone's supposed to be obsessing about Roe versus Wade, guess what? 26% of people, number one issue, the economy. Specifically, 18% of people who say inflation because it's at a, what, lifelong high for most people? So the reality here is that they hoped that a complete distraction from their own agenda that they voted for, that they made happen, would work. They thought outrage about the Supreme Court. They thought outrage about January 6 would get them, but it hasn't. And now they're even telling insiders like Politico they are worried that they have, quote, peaked too early. Who knows what happens in a couple of weeks' time? But one person who is in absolute denial is the lady who is this close to being the former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi.
New York Times poll, I think, is an outlier poll. You cite one poll, but all the other polls.
It's also the Real Clear Politics average is showing similar issues.
No, but that was one that brought down the average, and it was an outlier. It wasn't even that big a sample. So I dismiss that.
La 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 is not an actual political strategy, Madam Speaker. But even more interestingly was have a look at the absolute suck-up that's done by the host here, Andrea Mitchell, who doesn't want to talk about that it's not actually going well, but I need to soften up the audience for what's about to happen. Have a look at this for the softest possible way to bring up this subject while licking the boots of the person she's talking to at the same time. It's embarrassing.
So let's talk about rising inflation concerns along with crime, giving momentum, new momentum to Republicans after the Democrats were closing the gap, the historic gap.
Yes.
So after the Supreme Court ruling, there was huge outrage. That has seemed to subside, at least among overriding concerns. Despite all the legislative accomplishments, and I want to cite them, I want to, say it's been an extraordinary session. You and the president have done so much in terms of domestic concerns, the economy. So why is this message, why do you think the president has gotten this message through the voters?
The poll says 64% of the American people think the country is headed on the wrong track. And two Washington millionaires are somewhat surprised. What? Inflation? What's that? It's what real people have to pay for your bad decisions. Speaker Pelosi, tick, tick, tick.